Tonight, after the light fades from your yard, something is going to happen. Not in a forest, not in a national park. In your yard. 12 feet from your kitchen window. You've been watching them all day. Your cardinal, your chickadee, the little nuthatch that runs headfirst down the bark like gravity doesn't apply to him. And then the sun dips. The feeder goes quiet, and you assume they're just gone. They're not gone. The male cardinal, the one with that one slightly bent tail feather you've noticed a dozen times, he is somewhere right now doing something that should not be biologically possible. Most people never think about this. The birds disappear at dusk and reappear at dawn, and we fill that gap with nothing. We assume they sleep the way we sleep. They do not. What happens to your birds between dusk and dawn is one of the most astonishing stories in all of nature. And it has been unfolding 12 feet from your window every single night. Subscribe to Backyard Bird Whisper before you leave, because what you are about to learn has changed the way thousands of people see the yard outside their window. Here is what almost every person who has ever watched birds believes, and here is why they have never been more wrong. You probably assume your birds find a branch, tuck their heads under a wing, and drift off to sleep the way you do. Safe, still, peaceful. Science tells a different story entirely. And this is not a criticism. This assumption is almost universal. Even people who have fed birds for decades hold this picture in their minds. The sleeping bird, still and quiet, simply waiting for morning. Your birds are not passive at night. Their bodies are performing feats of physiological engineering that would make a NASA engineer stop and stare. Some of them are dropping their core body temperature on purpose. A controlled near-death they will reverse at dawn. Some are entering a state where their heart slows to a rate that should mean cardiac arrest, but doesn't. Some are doing something stranger still, sleeping with one eye open, one half of their brain alert, while the other half dreams. What is happening in your yard tonight is not rest. It is survival, performing itself quietly, invisibly while you sleep. Here is a number that will change how you look at a winter feeder. A black-capped chickadee, the little bird that weighs less than 5 pennies, can drop its body temperature by up to 22 degrees Fahrenheit in a single night, on purpose. This process is called regulated hypothermia, and it is the chickadee's nightly strategy to survive temperatures that would kill an unprotected animal its size within hours. Plain English. Your chickadee turns itself into something barely alive each night, just to make it to your feeder in the morning. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology has tracked this process extensively. Their data shows that small songbirds in winter can reduce their overnight energy expenditure by up to 23% through this regulated drop in body temperature. In a bird that may arrive at your feeder with only enough fat reserves to survive 12 to 16 hours, that 23% is not a minor efficiency gain. That 23% is the difference between life and death. And then there is this. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute studying avian sleep patterns discovered that birds practice something called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. Half the brain sleeps, the other half stays awake. One eye closes, one eye stays open, watching for predators, watching for changes in the dark. Your birds are never fully unconscious. Even in sleep, they are guarding themselves. Even in the deepest part of a January night, one half of your cardinal's brain is still aware of your yard. That is not metaphor, that is neuroscience. If the bird you watch most is a chickadee, here is exactly what is happening to it right now. Your chickadee spent this afternoon doing something deliberate. It was caching food, pressing sunflower seed after sunflower seed into bark crevices, gaps in wood, hidden corners of your yard. It can remember thousands of these locations. The hippocampus of a chickadee, the brain region responsible for spatial memory, physically grows larger in autumn to accommodate this. It then shrinks again in spring. Your chickadee is rebuilding part of its brain every year, seasonally, to survive. At dusk, your chickadee found a cavity, a hole in a tree, a gap behind your fence post, a dense cluster of evergreen branches close to your house. It fluffed its feathers into a sphere, trapping a layer of warm air against its skin. Then it began the drop, body temperature falling slowly, deliberately, toward a threshold that most warm-blooded animals cannot cross and return from. By midnight, Your chickadee's heart is beating somewhere between 200 and 500 times per minute. Already extraordinary. But on a cold winter night without this adaptation, it would burn through its entire fat reserve before 3 a.m. With it, it arrives at your feeder at first light. Ready, alive, hungry. It comes back every morning because it survived another night. And part of why it survived is the food your feeder provided the day before. Now, if the bird you watch most is a cardinal, here is what is happening to your bird. Cardinals do not enter regulated hypothermia the way chickadees do. They are larger, about the size of a deck of cards, and their size gives them a thermal advantage. More mass means slower heat loss. But do not let that fool you into thinking your cardinal's night is easy. Your male cardinal, the red one, the one with the bent tail feather, is finding roost cover right now. Dense shrubs, thick evergreens, a tangled hedge close to the ground. Cardinals roost low, often in groups of 2 to 6 birds, pressing close together in the same dense shrub, sharing body heat they didn't know they needed. Your cardinal is social at night in ways you never see during the day. Project FeederWatch data shows that cardinals who have consistent access to high-calorie feeders throughout winter arrive at roost sites with measurably more fat reserves, making their overnight survival significantly more reliable. Your feeder is not decoration. It is the reason your cardinal survived last January. Your cardinal will also practice that half-brain sleep. One eye toward the sky, watching. Even in a thick shrub at midnight, he is watching. He has been watching your yard from the roost, even in the dark, even in the cold. Now, if the bird at your window is a robin, the story gets stranger still. American robins in winter are not the same birds you watched pull earthworms from your lawn in spring. By the time the cold arrives, your robin has shifted its entire diet. From earthworms to berries, holly, juniper, crabapple. It is surviving on sugar and fat instead of protein. But here is the part most people never know. Robins in winter form communal roosts of staggering size. Hundreds of birds, sometimes thousands. They descend on a stand of berry-heavy trees at dusk, and the branches bend with the weight of them. This happens in suburban neighborhoods, in city parks, behind garden centers, a quarter-mile from your house. You may have a single robin at your feeder each day. At night, that bird may be sleeping among 1,000. But how do they find each other in the dark? How does one robin locate the same stand of trees night after night, when it cannot see more than a few feet ahead? They call to each other. Soft, high-contact notes. A sound researchers describe as a whispered seep, passed between birds in flight, dozens of robins threading through the dark sky, locating each other by sound alone. They also navigate by magnetic orientation, reading the Earth's field the way you read a road sign. And they use landmarks, the silhouette of a familiar tree line, the shape of a roof they've passed 100 times. On a January night, 1,000 robins navigate to the same trees. By sound, by magnetism, by memory, and they do it in complete darkness. Your single robin is part of something vast, something ancient, something happening invisibly above your sleeping neighborhood every winter night. I want you to sit with something for a moment. Your chickadee, the one you've named or thought about naming, or watched long enough that you'd recognize it from any other chickadee. That bird survived last night. It survived 14 hours of darkness. Cold it couldn't fully escape. Predators it could only half sleep through. An energy budget so tight that a single missed meal could tip it toward death. And then dawn came, and it flew to your feeder. Not to a neighbor's yard, not to a feeder 2 streets over. Yours. There are 100 feeders within a mile of your house. Your bird chose yours, not randomly, not by chance. Because over weeks and months, your yard passed a test. A wild animal, one with a survival calculus running every waking second, evaluated your yard and decided, this place is safe, this place is reliable, this place is worth coming back to. You passed. They chose you. That is not sentiment. That is the conclusion of a brain that has been refined by 60 million years of evolution. A brain that dropped its own temperature last night to survive, that slept with one eye open watching for hawks, that navigated by stars and magnetic fields and landmarks to return to this exact spot. And it returned to your yard. That is not nothing. That is actually quite extraordinary. The bond you feel watching your birds is not projection. It is not fantasy. It is the recognition, deep and accurate, that something real has been built between you and those birds. A relationship built on consistency and trust, and the food you put out even on the mornings you didn't feel like it. They noticed. They remember. They came back. Here is what you can do today, tonight, to make your yard work better for your birds after dark. Tip 1. Add dense cover within 15 feet of your feeder, not 30 feet, not 20. 15. Cardinals and sparrows roost in dense shrubs close to food sources, an American holly, a thick arborvitae, a bundled brush pile. Any of these gives your birds overnight cover that is close enough to your feeder to reduce their morning energy cost. Cornell lab research confirms that birds roosting near reliable food sources have higher winter survival rates. Every foot they don't have to fly in the cold is calories they don't have to burn. Plant it within 15 feet, and one cold morning your cardinal will roost in it, because you put it there. Tip 2. Switch to straight black oil sunflower seeds through winter, nothing else. No mixed seed blends, no millet fillers. Black oil sunflower seeds only. They have a thinner shell, easier for small birds to crack in cold when their energy is already low. They have a higher fat content than any other common feeder seed. Cardinals, chickadees, and nuthatches all preferentially choose them when given options. Place them in a feeder with a wide tray, not just a small port, because chickadees will be arriving at first light, desperate to replace what the night burned through, and competition at a narrow feeder costs them time and energy they cannot spare. Fat is survival, and tonight the seed you put out today may be the reason your chickadee makes it to dawn. Tip 3. Fill your feeder before dusk. Make it a habit, every single evening. Birds scout their morning feeding locations before they go to roost. Your chickadee is watching your feeder right now, at dusk, making a calculation about whether it's worth returning to in the morning. A full feeder at dusk signals reliability. It signals that your yard is a dependable source. Research from Project Feeder Watch shows that feeders with consistent food availability attract returning birds at significantly higher rates than feeders that run empty unpredictably. Fill it before dark, every night. They kept their promise to come back. Keep yours. Tonight, after you turn off the kitchen light, your cardinal will be in a shrub somewhere close. The one with the bent tail feather. He'll be pressed into the dense branches, one eye open, body conserving every calorie your feeder gave him today. His half-sleeping brain will be aware of your yard, the dark shape of the feeder, the familiar silhouette of your roof, the specific quality of the quiet that means safety. He has memorized your yard, in the dark, in the cold. And when the light comes back tomorrow, he will fly to your feeder, not because he has to, because your yard is the place he chose. Subscribe to Backyard Bird Whisper, because the most extraordinary wildlife on Earth is not in a jungle or a nature documentary. It is 12 feet from your kitchen window. Next week, your birds have been watching you. Not your yard, you, your face, your habits, the way you move on mornings when you're tired versus mornings when you're not. And they have already made a decision about you, one most people never find out. I will see you there. Tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed your birds behaving differently right at dusk, before the light fully fades? I read every single one. These are the stories I carry longest.